While I'm currently an atheist, I wasn't always an atheist. Around the age of 14 or 15, my neighbor Andrew invited me to go to church with him. This led to me getting saved, and I would go to church 3, sometimes 4 days a week. Even in basic, I was allowed to attend church on Sundays. But then I went to Afghanistan. I spent a lot of my deployment working at Checkpoint Delta. I chose an unusual job because I thought it would keep me far, far away from the enemy. I thought I was going to be a paper pusher, nowhere near the front lines. But there I was, in the middle of nowhere, manning some dinky checkpoint. Checkpoint Delta was small, like ridiculously small. There was probably 20 American soldiers there and 4 Humvees, total. The entire FOB was half the size of a basketball court. Want to see me do something cool? I got to do some cross-training with the mortarmen while I was out there, and one day an infantry squad came under heavy fire and was pinned down. They radioed in for help, and we started hanging Willopy rounds and killed the people that were shooting at them. Yes, I'm proud of that. No, I don't care what it says about me. Every day from sunup to sundown, I would stand at the gate and talk to whoever came by the checkpoint, just trying to get whatever useful information we could out of the locals. We were on one side of the river, and Pakistan was on the other side. One day we get a call over the radio that a UAV had spotted suspicious activity, and men with guns were headed our way. V-beds are a tactic that the enemy used, and my job was to be at the gate, waiting for these trucks to show up. As much as I tried, I could not stop thinking about V-beds. It was just me and my interpreter outside the FOB, while everyone else was taking what little cover there was. To give you a better idea how sketchy the situation was, we were surrounded by mountains, and they had the high ground. To fully understand how fucking stupid the army could be, watch this movie. I've been to the FOB in this movie dozens of times, and I knew one of the soldiers who was killed in this attack. But anyways, this story isn't going the way you probably think it's going. So we're at the checkpoint and 4 trucks have rolled up. I call one of the men over and my interpreter starts talking to him. This is where I learned that in Afghan culture, if you come across a dead body, it's your job to pick it up, bring it to the nearest town, and give it a proper burial. See, what had happened was AAF came across Afghans that were working for the US. So they executed them. After they executed these guys, they stopped passing by trucks so they can take the dead bodies to the nearest village. This is the suspicious activity the UAV spotted. They saw men with guns loading trucks, and then those trucks were headed our way. Checkpoint Delta was between them and the nearest village, and since there was only one road, they had to come through us. So then we let the trucks in one by one and had to search them. We needed to verify their story. Now that we knew we weren't going to be attacked, more soldiers came out to help me search the vehicles. This next part was the catalyst for me losing my faith. The way they were executed was brutal. These people are disgusting savages. With a single knife, one by one, their heads were sawed off. Not a pleasant way to go. But the knife dulled. And so by the time they got to the 4th body, they only cut halfway through his head. We had to take pictures of the dead bodies and try to identify who they were. Dead bodies don't look like they do in the movies. And there was no smell. Dead bodies don't instantly smell like dead bodies. They need time to rot, and they haven't been dead long. When the first head was pulled out of the truck, I had to turn my back. It took every ounce of willpower I had not to throw up in that moment. I was the only non-infantry soldier out there, and I didn't want to look like a pussy. Here's the worst part of the whole story. They didn't work for us. You've probably heard the phrase hearts and minds before. What most people don't understand about our war effort, it's not just killing the enemy. We spent billions improving that country in absolutely every way possible. Doing good stuff that never has and never will make the news. To improve the lives of locals, we would give them free money. No strings attached. This money was for them to make improvements in their villages. Building wells, hydroelectric plants, and all sorts of things that we take for granted here in the West. If they didn't have the knowledge required to build what needed to be built, either someone in the army would teach them, or we'd fly out people from other parts of Afghanistan to teach them. In return, nothing was required. Our mission was to make their lives better and free them from oppression. So these 4 men were killed for no reason. They didn't work with us, they didn't work for us, they did nothing for us. They in no way worked against the enemy who executed them. But they received money from us, so they were executed. These weren't just some random people. I've seen these men before when they were still alive. They've come through my checkpoint before. One of them had a son named Jawed, and quite often he would skip school to come hang out with me at the checkpoint. We failed to keep them safe. We failed to make their lives better. And because of us, those men are dead. As they say, no good deed goes unpunished. Christians like to make fun of atheists who say, if God exists, why do bad things happen? It's one thing when the person who says this is talking in the abstract, like they're just talking about some random person that experienced some bad thing. But when you experience this stuff firsthand, it changes you. Why did these people have to die? They didn't do anything. 'Cause, Zach, God has given us free will, and sometimes people misuse that free will. That's not good enough. Why give humans free will if this is what we're going to do with it? Why give humans free will if this is what we do to each other? What is the point? These aren't just some horrible events I heard about in the news. This happened 13 years ago, and to this day I still have nightmares about it. Sometimes I am randomly reminded of this day, and I start to cry. There's still a stigma about men crying, and every time I cry about this, I feel massive amounts of shame. My mind thinks, why am I crying? This didn't happen to me, my friends, or my family. These are just some random Afghans I only knew in passing. Why does it still hurt all these years later? Afghanistan opened my eyes to the worst possible things humans do to each other. And if God does exist, I'll never forgive him for what he allows to happen here on Earth.